Please adhere to YouTube selected guidelines before viewing the content of this video. I do not encourage or condone any products, actions, or behaviors shown in this video. All videos are produced in a safe, professional, and controlled environment. Please do not attempt to replicate any actions performed during the video. All actions are performed by professionals.
Alrighty, so today I'm going to be smoking and reviewing the American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada, which are the stronger of the two varieties of American spirits that are currently available on the Canadian market. And from what I've heard, at least, these are comparable to the American Spirit Blues within the United States. And the reason for that is quite simple. Prior to plain packaging, this pack of cigarettes right here was literally the American Spirit Blue, but on the Canadian market rather than on the American market. Due to plain packaging that came into full effect a couple years ago within Canada, these cigarettes have had to be renamed to the American Spirit Bolds, and they have had to get rid of any blue background on the packaging as well. But nonetheless, from what I can tell at least, these are indeed the American Spirit Blue cigarettes, but instead called the American Spirit Bolds. As a whole, I certainly am quite excited to try these cigarettes right here. I certainly will acknowledge. The reason why I am so excited to try these cigarettes right here is because, well, I enjoy American Spirit as a brand a little bit more so than not, but generally speaking, I only ever smoke American Spirits from America. So how will a American Spirit from Canada actually be? Well, I don't know, but I'm curious to find out. And I'm curious to find out if this pack of cigarettes right here is any different than American Spirit Blues in the United States. Will it be different? Will it be good? Or will it be the exact same and just as good as an American Spirit Blue from the United States? I don't know, but I'm looking forward to finding out, and I'm looking forward to letting you guys know as well, to say the least. But what is American Spirit as a brand? Well, American Spirit is an American additive-free natural cigarette brand that was first introduced in 1982 by the Santa Fe Natural Tobacco Company, which was a company that was set up only to sell American Spirit branded cigarettes. And for the first 15 or so years of the brand's existence, American Spirit remained a little bit more niche than not, to say the least. But starting in the mid to late 1990s, American Spirit as a brand saw an uptick in popularity due to a variety of different reasons, including but not limited to some celebrities getting spotted with them also being sold at Whole Foods, and some other stuff as well. But nonetheless, American Spirit as a brand grew a little bit in popularity in the mid to late 1990s, and they grew so much in popularity that American Spirit ended up catching the attention of some larger-than-not cigarette companies, R.J. Reynolds included. And American Spirit as a brand, along with the Santa Fe Natural Tobacco Company as a whole, caught R.J. Reynolds' attention so much that in 2002, R.J. Reynolds actually bought American Spirit along with the parent company of American Spirit, the Santa Fe Natural Tobacco Company, for $340 million, which is quite a bit of money if I do say so myself. And since having been bought by R.J. Reynolds within the United States, American Spirit has absolutely exploded in popularity. And now today, within the United States at least, American Spirit is by far the largest additive-free natural cigarette brand on the market. And currently, American Spirit cigarettes are produced by the Santa Fe Natural Tobacco Company, which is now a subsidiary of R.J. Reynolds in North Carolina, and they are, of course, sold all throughout the United States. Within Canada, though, it's a little bit of a different story. Within Canada, American Spirits are not owned and produced by R.J. Reynolds or R.J. Reynolds' parent company, British American Tobacco. Instead, American Spirits are owned and produced within Canada by Japan Tobacco, specifically by JTI-Macdonald Corporation, which is Japan Tobacco's Canadian subsidiary. And the reason why American Spirits are owned by Japan Tobacco in Canada is because Japan Tobacco owns the rights to the American Spirit nameplate in everywhere but the United States, as R.J. Reynolds sold off American Spirit as a brand internationally, the international rights for American Spirit as a brand in 2015 for $5 billion. $5 billion. That's like more than Microsoft paid for Minecraft. $5 billion is an ungodly amount of money to pay for a singular cigarette brand and to only pay for just the international rights of the cigarette brand in every country besides the United States. It is a ludicrous amount of money to pay for a cigarette brand, to say the least, but Japan Tobacco did it nonetheless. They haven't made their money back yet, which is certainly not making Japanese shareholders very happy, but they're certainly trying to, hence why American spirits are sold on the Canadian market. Now, I don't know if these American spirits are made in Canada. I don't know if they're made in Japan. I don't know where they're made. It does not say on the packaging, but what I can say, what I do know, is that within Canada, American Spirit is not the most popular cigarette brand in the world by any means. It's definitely not super popular, especially since there is a Canadian alternative to American Spirits called CNT, Canadian Natural Tobacco. But nonetheless, American Spirits seem to have driven themselves out a niche. And people who enjoy American Spirits within Canada seem to enjoy them quite a bit. It's just that American Spirit is definitely not as popular within Canada as it is within the United States. But it's definitely not, I'd have to say, an unpopular brand by any means either. They certainly do sell a little bit more so than not. Now, I'm not Canadian, that's just my personal perception of the situation, so I very well could be wrong, so do take what I say with a grain of salt on that little bit of what I just had to say. But that's what American Spirit is as a brand, more so than not. Without further ado, I do suppose now I should probably go ahead and go over my expectations of the American Spirit bold cigarettes from Canada. So what are my expectations? Well, taste-wise, I am, excuse me, expecting a semi-dry, mildly sweet, mildly sour tobacco taste with a little bit of a citrusy undertone, along with a little bit of sweetness, along with a little bit of a chocolatey undertone as well. That's very much the taste I get from American Spirit Blues in the United States, and so as such, that is the taste I'm expecting from these cigarettes as well. I'm not expecting any sort of a papery taste, additive taste, or chemical taste, as of course these are indeed American spirits, even if they are not American spirits from the United States. I'd have to say, body-wise, I am definitely not expecting the biggest body in the world by any means. American spirits do tend to be packed quite tightly due to the fact that they contain more tobacco in them than your typical cigarette, and I can confirm that these cigarettes do have a little bit more tobacco in them than your typical cigarette, just simply because when compared to other Canadian cigarettes, this pack is a little bit more hefty than not, even though it only contains 20 cigarettes rather than the typical 25 that you may find within Canada. I'd have to say, airflow-wise, I'm expecting the airflow to be a little bit more constricted than not, just simply due to the same reason as the body, because, well, there's a decent amount of tobacco in the cigarette. It's packed down quite tight, so I'm expecting the airflow to be a little bit more constricted than not, just for the same reason I'm expecting a small body. I'd have to say, draw-wise, I'm expecting the draw to be much heavier than not. I am expecting the roughness, smoothness to be a 3 out of 4, and strength-wise, I'm expecting these to very much be a 3 out of 4 as well. A little bit stronger than normal, 3 out of 4, but a 3 out of 4 nonetheless. And those are my expectations for the American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada. I do suppose, without further ado, now I should probably go ahead and hop into the packaging of this pack of cigarettes right here. After I go over the packaging, I'm going to go ahead and get the cellophane all off. I'm going to go ahead and get the pack of cigarettes all opened up. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know what the cigarettes look like, what they feel like, what the quality of them is like. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and get one of the American Spirit Bold cigarettes all lit up. And I'm going to go and let you guys know how these cigarettes actually are. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my final thoughts on these cigarettes. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and give them a rating as well. But first off, as said, we got to go over the packaging of the American Spirit Bold cigarettes, which is, to say the least, a little bit different than the packaging we see on American Spirit Blue cigarettes. We can see right here, we get a beautiful design with no warning labels on it, except on the side right here. Yeah, that's not the case in Canada. We get plain packaging, so there's a warning label, plain packaging down here, and that's not even the only difference. Of course, this pack that I'm seeing, that is right here, is very much just different sized in general from my pack of American Spirits from the United States. I mean, like, it's just a completely different shape and size. It's thinner, it's a push pack rather than being a flip-top box. It's different, to say the least, and it makes sense for these cigarettes to be a push pack within Canada, because push packs seem to be the predominant form of packaging for cigarettes within Canada, but oddly enough, American Spirits were not actually push packs up until plain packaging fully came through. So I don't know if it's a regulatory thing. I don't know if they're like required to use pushbacks. I don't know what the deal is in all honesty, but either way, this packaging looks a lot different than American Spirit Blue packaging in the United States, and that is honestly kind of an understatement. This packaging is entirely different, just simply due to all the warnings, the plain packaging, and just the completely different shape and size of the packaging as a whole, plus the fact that it's not even a flip-top box. It is a push pack. You pull from under, you push from underneath to get everything all out and everything like that kind of thing. It's an entirely different piece of packaging that is completely different from the packaging we see on American Spirits in the United States and even in other countries like, let's say, Japan. But, with that little bit of comparison to American Spirit Blues within the United States out of the way, let's go ahead and start covering this packaging just a little bit more so than not detail-wise, although I am going to be trying to move a little bit faster than not through this because it's plain packaging. We see warning right there, some yellow background with some warning text right there. It just says 48,000 people a year are killed in Canada due to tobacco, which is like more than the combination of car crashes, murders, opiates, and alcohol combined and everything like that kind of thing. Whatever they say. I don't believe that personally, but I'm like, hey, whatever. And then it just says, you can quit, we can help. They have the quit smoking line right there. There's a dead guy right there. I assume that guy is actually probably dead, frankly put. But what I find amusing is that it's very badly photoshopped, that it just says cancer right there. It just says cancer on this little bit of a tag right here. That is like some of the worst Photoshop I've ever seen. It is horrible Photoshop. Absolutely horrible Photoshop. So this guy 100% did not die from cancer. Or maybe he did, but they're definitely photoshopping the thing that says cancer right there onto the little bit of the tag, to say the least. But yeah, this is, come on, Canada. You can do better warning labels than this. They're just doing fear factor kind of thing. Make real warning labels like, I don't want a hole in my throat. Put a photo of somebody with a hole in their with a hole in their throat on the front of the packaging, or maybe put like a photo of a baby smoking or something like that kind of thing, and be like, smoking is badass. That actually would make me want to smoke more. That wouldn't really be a warning. But that's kind of the warnings they've gone for in the UK, which is really weird. They've got a baby smoking cigarettes in the UK, which I think is hilarious. I'm like, man, this baby is ballin' kind of thing. But I'm getting sidetracked. It's just plain packaging. It's a typical plain packaging fear factor warning label. They're really just trying to scare people into not smoking cigarettes. Whatever. It's not scaring anybody, frankly put. Moving on below the warning label right here, we can see a ugly, forgettable green color right here with white text on it. Just says American Spirit bold right there. Just says KS right there, so that stands for king size. And then it just says 20 cigarettes right there. A lot of packs of cigarettes within Canada do indeed contain 25 cigarettes rather than 20, but this pack does indeed only contain 20, not 25. And of course, these are king size cigarettes, and of course, this is the American Spirit bold cigarette within Canada. And of course, as said, we see this green background down here. Now that is the typical green background that we see on pretty much all plain packaging cigarettes around the world. Now, there's been a couple countries out there that have said, oh, it's a really ugly green. Oh, it's a really forgettable green and stuff like that kind of thing. Or maybe they haven't said it's forgettable, but they always say, oh, it's a really ugly green and that's why we stick it on there for plain packaging. I don't think it's ugly. I just think it's forgettable. But I'm wearing a shirt that is the exact same color as this. This is not an ugly green. I actually really like the look of this green. It's just forgettable when used in this example. But I think the green looks great. I'm wearing a shirt that's the exact same color green right now. I love this color green. I think it's beautiful. It is not ugly. It's beautiful. It's just kind of forgettable, frankly put. It's like the Disney like green they use that's like copyrighted by Disney, and they use it in their parks to like hide like towers and stuff like that. They don't want people to see. And the way it works with the green is that it's just such a forgettable green that your brain just completely skips over the green, even though it's like right in front of you. It's really interesting. It's very cool. They're trying to go for the same thing with this green right here, frankly put, but then it doesn't really make much sense because this makes it a lot more distinct than not. Like, it's got red, it's got yellow, it's got the warning label. Like, that makes it like really eye-catching. But then you've got this, like, the plain packaging doesn't do anything. It's so counterintuitive. It's whatever. it's whatever. I think warning labels are much more effective when there's actually a design on the bottom of the packaging, but hey, maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. I suppose I really shouldn't be saying that because I'm really giving the Canadian government advice now, aren't I? So I really shouldn't be saying that. But that's pretty much all there is to the front of the packaging, frankly put. It's just plain packaging, frankly put. Moving on to the back of the packaging, we can see the warning label is repeated, but this time in French. Of course, Canada is a dual language country. They speak both English and French there in some areas at least. And so as such, it is a legal requirement that all cigarette packs have a warning label both in English and in French. And so as such, this pack is no different. We can just see it just says American Spirit bold right there, covered up by the tax stamp just a little bit, KS25 right there. This is not translated into French by in any way, shape, or form, but the warning label itself is. And to the side of this stuff right here, we can see the Canadian tax stamp right there, just says 20 cigarettes, has a maple leaf or whatever right there, has some other stuff going on. It's an okay looking tax stamp, really not the greatest in my personal opinion, but also not the worst I've ever seen. I've definitely seen worse tax stamps, but this tax stamp right here cannot compare to Indonesian tax stamps. They are gorgeous, let me tell y'all what. This tax stamp, it doesn't look bad by any means, but is definitely not the best looking tax stamp I have ever seen by any means. But that's pretty much all there is to the back of the packaging. Moving on to this side, we see the barcode right here with all the bars in the barcode being that green color once again, which is pretty interesting. Moving above that, we can see it just says American Spirit bold right there. Then under that, it just says JTI-Macdonald Corp. And then it just says Montreal, Quebec, H2K1W3. I don't know what the H2K1W3 means. Maybe that's like the location they're in within Montreal, Quebec. I have no idea, but the headquarters for JTI-Macdonald Corp, which is, as said, Japan Tobacco's Canadian subsidiary, they're located in Montreal, which is a city in Quebec, of course. And Quebec is a province within Canada, and it's the main province in Canada that speaks French. But that's pretty much all there is to this side right here. Moving on to the other side, we see another warning label. Yep, another warning label. What a surprise, frankly put. Moving on to the top of the package, we see it just says American Spirit bold right there. And moving on to the bottom, we see it just says American Spirit bold right there once again, just slightly covered up by this little bit of a tax stamp right here. And we see some numbers off to the side right there as well. Those numbers read 340-598-2035. I don't know what those numbers mean, but if you guys know, let me know in the comments down below. I cannot read those numbers. I don't know what the date code for how this pack, or how the date code for this pack is oriented and everything like that kind of thing. Let me know if y'all know in the comments down below. But yeah, no, that's pretty much all there is to the packaging. Frankly put, really not too much going on. It's just plain packaging in all honesty, and it doesn't stop there. It does not stop there, as much as I hate to say it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get the cellophane all off of this pack, which interestingly enough rips off like that. Is definitely a little bit different than the United States, to say the least. Let's go ahead and get this cellophane in my backpack. Gotta make sure I'm not littering or nothing like that. And now, let's go ahead and just take a look at what the quality of this pack is like. I'd have to say the overall feel of this pack under my finger is very much just that of a printed paperboard sort of texture. Really nothing too much going on, a little bit sticky kind of thing. It's just a printed sort of paper texture, really nothing too much going on. Just a printed thick paper texture, nothing too interesting, frankly put. The overall quality of this pack is pretty solid. It's nothing like above average by any means, but it's pretty solid quality, if I do say so myself. It's like the higher tier of average quality for a pack of cigarettes. I definitely have to say the lines on the back right here, where it kind of all folds over, they line up pretty much perfectly, and there's really no areas on this pack where I can like kind of get my fingers caught or anything like that kind of thing. So I'd have to say overall pretty solid quality cigarette pack, but it's nothing above average. As said, it's pretty hard to make an above average or a below average quality cigarette pack. 99.9% of all cigarette packs are just average quality, frankly put. But without further ado, let's go ahead, and I do suppose now, there's something else I was going to say, actually. Oh yeah, I was going to say, does this pack look better with the cellophane off? No, it doesn't. Unlike the other 90% of cigarettes in everywhere in the world, this pack does not look better with the cellophane off because of plain packaging. But now that I've gone ahead and said that, without further ado, let's go ahead and get this pack all opened up. And we can see that this pack is indeed a push pack, just like that. And just getting it opened up, we can see there's more warnings. Yep, that's just how it is in Canada. There's more warnings on the inside of the cigarette pack. That's right, y'all. More warnings on the inside of the cigarette pack. Not just on the front right here, but also on the back. That's right, y'all. There's more warnings even on the back of the slide pack that we see right here. Yup, warning on the front of the slide pack, warning on the back. That's probably why, I'm thinking at least, these were probably required to go for, or to become, I'm getting words all jumbled up. That's probably why these were required to become a slide pack rather than a flip-top box, because a flip-top box, you just have less room for warning labels, frankly put. So I'm thinking it might have been a legislative thing that happened in Canada that started requiring all cigarettes to be a pushback rather than a flip-top box. I'm not sure about that. I can't say anything for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me by any means, just because there's a lot more room for warning labels if you do indeed use a push box. But you know, warning label right there, warning label on the back. Yeah, it is what it is. Taking a look at the sides, see there's really nothing too much going on. There's like a little bit of blue right there, something like that kind of thing. And there's like code on this side. Really nothing too much going on. Let's go ahead and get this back in the pack if I possibly can. And now, without further ado, let's go and take a look at the inside of the lid. Nothing going on, plain packaging. Taking a look at the foil, nothing going on, plain packaging. It's just basic silver foil. Really not too big of a surprise, frankly put. Now, one big difference between American spirits is that these cigarettes inside this pack have been separated into two different areas. This is a 20 pack, so there's two different areas of 10 cigarettes apiece. That's pretty common within Canada. It is not at all common within the United States. There's only a handful of cigarettes in the United States that do a similar thing to this, including but not limited to like the Dunhill International line of cigarettes, along with Export A's that are sold in the United States as well. But within Canada, this is the norm. So we see two different areas of cigarettes separated and in two different foil pockets and whatnot. But you know, just basic silver foil, as we can see, and the silver foil itself is a foily texture on the outside and kind of a linen-like papery foily texture on the inside. Let's go and see if I can get this foil all out, and we can see the warning labels don't stop with the packaging either, because yeah, there's warning labels on the cigarettes too. So yep, these are American spirits. They do not have the American Spirit Thunderbird on them, because otherwise that would go against what Canada has going with plain packaging and with plain look for cigarettes and everything like that. And these have warning labels on the cigarettes as well. Now, you can tell that these are the more full-flavored version of the American Spirits within Canada, due to the fact that there is indeed a little bit of cork style right there. That's just to emphasize that, hey, these are indeed the more full-flavored versions of the American Spirits within Canada. The other version, which I think is just called the American Spirit, are comparable to the American Spirit Yellows, apparently. But since this is comparable to the American Spirit Blues, which is a heavier American Spirit, these have the sort of like cork style strip right there. But yeah, there's a warning label on this cigarette itself. Pretty typical for Canada. Really no big surprise, frankly. But let's go and get one of these cigarettes out now. And let's go ahead and just close that pack back up. And let's go ahead and now just take a look at this cigarette itself. And let's go ahead and see what the quality, smell, and everything like that is. And I think I'm going to go ahead and start off with smell. And I'll be frank, yeah, these smell like an American Spirit Blue from the United States. Maybe a little bit more rich smelling. A lot of times American Spirit Blues from the United States are a little bit more mild smelling in my opinion, but these smell maybe a little bit more rich, a little bit more bold. But the smell I'm getting is very much that of a dry, it's very much that of a sort of dry, yeah, like dry dirt and grass, with the slightest bit of a tiny bit of like very small bit of sweetness in there. But just kind of like if you walk into like a dry field with like dry grass growing and everything like that kind of thing, and you're kind of in a drought. That's kind of what this cigarette smells like. Very much in a good way. But you know, very much a dry sort of sweet and sour scent as a whole. A little bit of dry grass, a little bit of sort of dirt in there as well. I definitely have to say, like, very much dry dirt with a little bit of sweetness in there as well. I'm not really noticing any sort of chocolate in there by any means, but there is something else going on in there as well, and I'm not sure what it is. I want to say it's just that sort of dirt-like taste. I want to say it's just like that sort of dirt-like taste, in all honesty. Well, now that I've covered what these cigarettes smell like, and now that I have confirmed that these cigarettes do smell a little bit more similar than not to American Spirit Blues in the United States, but at the same time, they do smell slightly different as well. They're definitely a little bit more bold smelling, and the intricacies are just a little bit different smell-wise, but it could very well just be me, in all honesty. I'm not exactly sure. But now that I've talked about the smell, let's go ahead and now go over the, look of this cigarette. And we can see the filter of this cigarette is indeed one giant warning label. We can see, of course, as previously mentioned, there is a little bit of a cork style strip right there, just to emphasize that these are a heavier cigarette than not, but everywhere else on the cigarette besides 2 cork style strips are indeed part of a warning label. And we can see right here, it just says a warning in French, and then under that it just says like Health Canada, and right here it just says cigarettes cause leukemia, Health Canada right there. Cigarettes cause leukemia. I thought leukemia was like, no, that's Lyme disease. I was about to say I thought leukemia was caused by ticks, but yeah, you know, I don't know. Maybe cigarettes do cause leukemia. I'm not sure. Ticks cause Lyme disease. That's what it is. Not leukemia, Lyme disease. But yeah, maybe cigarettes do cause leukemia. I'm not sure, but either way, this warning label is not going to stop me from smoking cigarettes, frankly put. And if anything, this warning label makes these American Spirits look even cooler than they normally do. I mean, like, who doesn't want a badass cigarette that is telling you that smoking is bad? Well, I know I do. I want one of them. That's exactly what this is. These cigarettes, this warning label right here, look badass, and the warning label makes these cigarettes look even more badass, if you ask me at least. I think the Canadian government has just made cigarettes look even more cool than not, in all honesty. Moving on from the filter itself, though, right here we can see it's just white paper going all the way down. Unlike American Spirits in the United States, there are not any, horizontal, vertical, or not horizontal, vertical. There are not any horizontal lines going across the cigarette on the smoking bit of the paper itself. That is a thing in the United States, along with in Japan as well, but for some reason it's not a thing within Canada. Not exactly sure why, but it's not nonetheless. This is literally just plain paper. There's no lines going down or anything like that kind of thing, which is definitely a little bit different than American Spirits I'm used to seeing. Taking a look at the blend of the tobacco on the inside of the cigarette, I definitely have to say it's a little bit of a medium blend, maybe a little bit brighter than the blend of the American Spirit Blues in the United States, but not like terribly brighter by any means. But it is very much a medium blend nonetheless. Not a medium dark blend, not a medium light blend, but maybe a little bit on the lighter side than not, but very much just a medium blend as a whole. There's some light aspects, there's some dark aspects, but it's just a medium blend as a whole, if you ask me at least. And taking a look to see if there's any perforation on the filter. There is indeed one line of perforation on the filter. There's a decent amount of dots, and the dots are a little bit bigger than not. American Spirit Blues in the United States do indeed have a line of perforation on the filter, so I'm not too surprised to see a line of perforation on the filter here, and that definitely does make me think that these are probably going to smoke a little bit more similarly to American Spirit Blues on the United States market than not. But you know, there is one line of perforation just right here on the cigarette filter. There's a decent amount of dots. The dots are not super small, not super big, so I do think they'll have an effect, but not like an insanely large effect by any means. And overall, quality-wise, the cigarette itself is pretty decent quality. It's not falling apart by any means, and just feeling it, you can definitely tell it is much more tightly packed than not. Do not pack these cigarettes after buying them. I do not recommend doing that, because otherwise these will be packed too tightly, and they will be a little bit harder to smoke than not. But that's pretty much all I had to say about the look of the cigarettes themselves and about everything else about the cigarettes themselves besides smoking. So I do suppose, without further ado, I should probably go ahead and get this cigarette right here all lit up. I should probably go ahead and find out just how good or just how bad the American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada actually are. And I suppose I should probably go ahead and get to smoking an American Spirit cigarette from Canada for the first time. The wind is kind of picking up just a little bit, I'll be honest with y'all, so I'm gonna go and take a little bit of a sip of water while I'm waiting for the wind to go away, just a little bit more so than not. Let's go and take a little bit of a sip of water real quick. But now that I've taken, ooh, that was nice. That was a nice sip of water. But now that I've taken a little bit of a sip of water, without further ado, let's go ahead and get my first ever Canadian American Spirit cigarette all it up, and let's go ahead and find out just how good or just how bad a Canadian American Spirit cigarette actually is. And let's go and find out just how good or just how bad I gotta actually get my lighter out of my pocket. Where's my lighter? Well, I'm looking forward to finding out how Canadian American Spirit cigarette is, and I'm looking forward to finding out how the American Spirit Bold cigarettes are in general as well. But I do suppose without further ado, let's go and get this cigarette all lit up, and let's go and get smoking. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying? Right off the bat, these taste different. The smell is very similar to American Spirit Blues on the United States market, and the taste is comparable, but it's not the exact same. In my personal opinion, American Spirit Blues in the United States do not really have much of a nutty taste to them. Maybe there's a very slight undertone of nuts, not really much though. This very much has a much more Canadian blend to it. And you can definitely tell the blend of this tobacco has been changed a little bit for the Canadian market, because these have much more of a Canadian Virginia blend taste to them than American Spirit cigarettes in the United States. This cigarette has a little bit of nuts in it, has a little bit of a sort of creamy taste to it as well. Along with that sort of dry taste, and along with that sort of, like, I'd have to say, yeah, dry sort of hay dirty sort of taste. Not dirt-y taste, but sort of dirt-like taste, I guess is really the right way of putting it. Is there a little bit of chocolate in there? Like, in my personal opinion, like American Spirit Blues from the United States have a little bit of chocolate taste too. It's very much an undertone in the United States, but I'm definitely not really noticing any from this cigarette right here, right now at least. You know, just the first couple I'm getting more words all jumbled up. Just the first couple puffs have really just confirmed that these cigarettes are not actually the same as American Spirit Blues from the United States. They're actually a little bit different. They're definitely not the same, for sure. Are they comparable against each other? 100%. The tastes are more similar than not, but they're not the exact same. American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada are not the exact same as American Spirit Blue cigarettes from the United States. Let's go and test the body real quick. The body is a little bit smaller than not as predicted. No really super big surprise in all honesty. The airflow is quite tight right now, if I do say so myself. And as a whole, I'd have to say, you know, the body, a little bit smaller than not. The airflow is quite constricted. The draw is a little bit heavier than not only due to the constricted airflow, but also due to the perforation on the filter, which does make it a little bit more heavy than not more airy than not per se. Like, there's a little bit of airiness in there for sure, but it's not like super significant, but you can very easily ignore the airiness, and so it just comes across as a much heavier draw than not, I definitely have to say. And then there's the roughness and smoothness. Roughness and smoothness wise, I'd have to say these are very much a 3 out of 4. And strength wise, while I can't say anything for sure as I haven't smoked the entirety of this cigarette yet, I'm confident in saying it will more than likely be a 3 out of 4. Yeah, definitely a little bit rougher than not. Interesting though. I honestly kind of genuinely thought, up until the point where I smelled these cigarettes, and I was kind of like, okay, these do smell a little bit different, but at the same time, very similar. But up until that point, I was very confident that these were literally going to be the exact same as American Spirit Blues from the United States. They're not, though. They're not. They are a little bit different. Not bad. I do want to acknowledge, not bad. But these cigarettes are more like a combination of the American Spirit Dark Blues and the American Spirit Normal Blues within the United States. The American Spirit Dark Blues have a little bit of a sort of nutty taste to them. The American Spirit Dark Blues have a little bit of a nutty taste to them. The American Spirit Blues have a little bit of a sort of dry taste to them with a little bit of a coca undertone, in my personal opinion. These are kind of a combination of both of those tastes in very much the best way possible, actually. These are pretty solid smokes. I like them. At least this first experience with them I like. You know, the taste I'm getting is very much that of in order of prevalence, a sweeter than not creamy taste with an undertone of nuts. Like, I'd have to say tree nuts, and with the two tastes combined, it kind of comes across like a sweet, creamy, almost like nut buttery sort of taste. I definitely have to say almost like cashew butter or almond butter or something like that kind of thing. And then you get a little bit of there's a little bit of coffee creamer taste in there as well. So I'd have to say it's almost like I wouldn't really say it's like a buttery taste per se. It's actually more of a milky taste, but it's not quite milky. It's like creamy, like I guess coffee creamer is really the right way of describing it. I'm just kind of talking out loud right now just to kind of figure out my thoughts on the taste. And then under that, there's a little bit of a dry taste with a little bit of citrus, a little bit of a sort of like dry field hay taste. So it's sort of like a combination of like grass and dirt kind of thing. Like you just walk out into like a field and you smell like the dryness of the field along with a little bit of like the dry dirt as well. That's kind of what a little bit of the taste is like in a very positive way, not in a bad way at all. And then under that, there's really nothing else in all honesty. Not that I'm noticing at this point in time, at least. These are definitely significantly sweeter than American Spirit normal blues in the United States, but they're about the same sweetness as American Spirit dark blues in the United States, in my personal opinion. These are definitely more comparable to American Spirit dark blues than American Spirit blues in the United States, but they're comparable to both of them. The tastes of both of them kind of combine. And you can definitely tell, and now Canadian cigarettes are normally sort of Virginia blend cigarettes. They have sort of a nutty, creamy taste to them. That's just kind of the Canadian Virginia blend. That's the standard Canadian Virginia blend right there. You can definitely tell that these cigarettes have been changed a little bit for the Canadian market. They've been given a little bit of a Canadian blend along with the typical American Spirit blend as well. So it's kind of a combination of the Canadian blend along with the, well, normal American Spirit blend. And it just kind of comes across like a combination of the American Spirit dark blues and the American Spirit blues from the United States. It's a very nice flavor. It's not bad at all. I actually really like it. Let's go and test the body one more time. Body is still much smaller than not, just simply due to the fact that the airflow is still a little bit more constricted than not, the draw is still a little bit heavier than not, and due to the perforation as well. So it is a little bit more of a small, airy body than not, to say the least. No big surprise, that's just how American Spirits are in general, no matter where you go in the world. It's one of the things that makes American Spirit an American Spirit. You know, I think I'm almost done with this cigarette. As a whole, I'll admit, pretty positive experience. You know, I don't mind Canadian American Spirits one bit. They definitely do taste a little bit different than American Spirits, but not in a bad way. Just a little bit different. Excuse me. And as I approach the bottom, I'm starting to get some other taste in there as well. So I am thinking that I'm gonna need another cigarette to really kind of figure out what the taste of this cigarette, of what these cigarettes are actually like, or is actually like. Get my words just a little bit jumbled up today. But I can say the first cigarette was pretty solid. I went ahead and stubbed it out. I went ahead and put it inside of my backpack to throw away after this video. But you know, much more solid smoke than not, to say the least. Definitely much more enjoyable cigarette than not. And definitely a little bit different than American Spirits from the United States. A little bit of a different taste for sure. Not super different, very familiar, but different nonetheless. But as said, kind of a combination between the American Spirit Dark Blues and the American Spirit Normal Blues. Some people refer to them as the light blues, but they're just the normal blues. Is there anything else I wanted to say about that first cigarette? I don't think there is. I don't think there is anything else I really wanted to say. So I think momentarily I'm gonna go ahead and get another one of my Canadian American Spirits all lit up, and I think I'm gonna go and get back to smoking. You know, gotta do it. I want some more nicotine. I definitely have to say, strength-wise as well, definitely 3 out of 4, for sure. But yeah, I think I'm gonna need another smoke to really figure out what the actual taste is like, but based off of the first smoke, I can say that smoking-wise, besides the taste itself, the American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada very much come across like an American Spirit. The body is much smaller and much more airy than not. The airflow is quite constricted. The draw is quite heavy and a little bit airy, but not super airy by any means. The roughness, smoothness, very much a 3 out of 4, and strength-wise, very much a 3 out of 4 as well. Very much a full-flavored cigarette, very much a full-flavored American Spirit for sure. So very much smoking-wise, besides the taste, they really do come across much more so than not like a American Spirit cigarette, which is really not a big surprise. It's an American Spirit after all. It's just that the taste is a little bit different than American Spirits, but not super different by any means. Well, I do suppose without further ado, I should probably go ahead and now get my pack opened up once again, and I do suppose now I should probably go ahead and get back to smoking a Canadian American Spirit cigarette and see what the actual taste is really like. I've kind of figured out what the taste is like, but towards the end I started noticing something a little bit different, so I'm really going to be trying to analyze the taste with this second cigarette, and I think I'm going to grab myself a little bit of a screenshot as well. But without further ado, let's go and get this cigarette all lit up, and let's go ahead and get back to smoking. Yes sir, you know what I'm saying? One other thing I forgot to mention about the first cigarette I smoked is that it burns at about the same rate as American Spirits as well. Burns very slowly, just like American Spirits do in the United States. But the more I smoke, the more I think the sweetness from the sort of creamy taste is coming from a sort of brown sugar molasses taste. Interesting. I really like the taste of these. This is really good. I've been retrohaling. That last hit was taken like a cigar, so I didn't inhale at all. Just trying to really analyze the taste right now. I can say I do like these though. I can say that for sure. Yeah, no, I do like these. Not bad smokes at all. Not bad smokes at all if I do say so myself. Definitely get me buzzed. I'm feeling quite buzzed right now. These are definitely a 3 out of 4 strength-wise. Okay. Trying to think if there's any undertones any other undertones going on. Citrus. A little bit of like dry citrus sort of taste. It's the more I think about it, the more I'm like, is it really like a sort of dry, sort of like field-like taste? And I can't shake that, but at the same time, I can't really say that's super accurate either. I'm just trying to think of a way to describe it, and that's really the best way I can think to describe it, but at the same time, I think it's not really the greatest way in the world to describe it. But it's just sort of dry. Is it really a sort of grass-like taste? I think probably the best way of describing this sort of dry taste is that of a dry, citrusy sort of, I think dirt is not inaccurate, but I don't know if grass is really, or like dried grass. I think I'm gonna stick with that metaphor, with that description, just because I don't really feel like it's inaccurate per se, but I also don't feel like it's the most accurate, but I think it's probably the best way I can think of at this moment in time of describing that part of the taste. So I'm gonna stick with that. Okay. Body, of course, still a little bit smaller and more airy than not. Not a super big body by any means. All right. So I'd have to say the taste of the American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada is, to describe it fully, in order of prominence, that of a sweeter than not, nutty, coffee creamer-like taste, with the sweetness itself coming from a brown sugar and molasses sort of taste, with an undertone of a dry citrus, dirt, and like dried field of grass sort of taste. And that's very much what the taste is like as a whole. It's very much a combination of an American Spirit Dark Blue, an American Spirit Blue, along with a little bit of, I want to say, American Spirit Red as well. Because the sweetness, it's kind of feeling like it's not really like an American Spirit. So it's kind of like a combination of like 3 different American Spirit cigarettes from the United States. And there's a little bit of sweetness coming from the citrusiness as well, for sure. But the main bit that's coming from the citrusiness is that sort of dry taste, which is a little bit more sour than not. So it's very much a sweet and sour cigarette with an undertone of nutty, like tree nut nutty, not peanutty, but sort of like almondy or cashewy sort of coffee creamer with a brown sugar molasses sweetness to it, with an undertone of slightly sweeter and sour than not citrus, dirt, and like dried grass. Yeah, that's what I would have to say. There's definitely a little bit of a Canadian blend taste in there, for sure, for sure. So, you know, taste, very much that of sweet and sour tobacco, with the sweetness very much being that of a brown sugar molasses coffee creamer, almond cashew creamer-like taste, with a little bit of sourness and sweetness coming from a sort of citrusy, dried grass, and dirt. There's really no sort of chocolate or cocoa in there, I want to say. Although maybe, I don't think so. Interesting. Yeah, I don't think there's really any chocolate or cocoa in there or anything like that kind of thing. That's an undertone you get from American Spirit Blues in the United States, but not an undertone you get from the American Spirit Bolds from Canada. Definitely a little bit different from American Spirit Blues and just American Spirits in general from the United States, but not entirely different by any means. But taking a look at the filter itself, we can see the perforation did do its job just a little bit more so than that. We can see the edge of the filter is a little bit brighter than the very center. The filter itself is a little bit more mushy than not, but not like super mushy by any means. It is still a little bit firmer than not. It does still maintain its shape a little bit better than not as well. And the filter starts right about here where the top of my finger is. So it starts a little bit into where the actual warning label itself is. But I would recommend stubbing the cigarette out where I stubbed it out, or a little bit before that, just so you don't get any of the ink from this warning label right here, which one could argue is actually making the cigarettes more dangerous. So yeah, Canada has not only, puts warning labels on the cigarettes themselves, but they've also made the cigarettes more dangerous by doing so, which is pretty amusing and is pretty ironic, if you ask me at least. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that filter in the side of my backpack so it'll be littering or nothing like that. And now, I do suppose it's time for me to go ahead and talk about my final thoughts on the American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada. I think I've already given a good overall description and summary of how the taste of them is and everything like that, so I'm not going to go over that. But what are my final thoughts on the American Spirit Bold cigarettes? Do I like them? How are they in comparison to American Spirits? Well, I'm going to go and cover that first part first. Do I like these cigarettes? Do I like the cigarettes I smoked and reviewed for the first time in today's video? Yeah, I do. I do like them. I think they're pretty solid. I would definitely buy a pack of the American Spirit Bolds from Canada again. If I was to visit Canada again, I would most certainly buy another pack of them if I was just wanting a cigarette that was something I'd already tried previously. If I was wanting to try or just smoke a cigarette that I'd already tried previously that's a little bit more similar than not to American cigarettes in Canada, the American Spirit Bolds would definitely be a go-to of mine for sure. Not bad cigarettes at all. In fact, pretty dang good cigarettes, if I do say so myself. I actually really like the American Spirit Bold cigarettes, and I would most certainly spend money on buying another pack of them again. Are they different from American Spirits, though? Most certainly. They most certainly are different. They definitely have a little bit of a Canadian tobacco blend taste to them in combination with the American Spirit Classic blend taste as well, I definitely have to say. The taste itself is a little bit more creamy than most American Spirits you're able to find in the United States, although there's still that classic American Spirit sort of citrusiness and dryness and everything like that kind of thing. There's still that classic taste going on, but there's definitely a little bit of a Canadian tobacco blend overtone in the blend of the tobacco itself. So, you know, the American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada, definitely a little bit different than American Spirits on the United States market. And if I had to say what these cigarettes are, what American Spirit cigarettes these are comparable to in the United States, I would say it's a couple of them, actually. I would actually say these are comparable to a couple of them because these kind of come across like a combination of a couple different American Spirits. They kind of come across like a combination of the American Spirit Blues, the American Spirit Dark Blues, and the American Spirit Reds to some extent. There's different parts of the taste from those different cigarettes that you can find in this cigarette right here, and so I'd have to say the taste of these cigarettes is definitely a little bit more like a combination of a bunch of different American Spirits from the United States than any one particular variety. These used to be the American Spirit Blues within Canada, but I can definitely say, even though these used to be the American Spirit Blues within Canada, these are not super comparable to American Spirit Blues in the United States. They are comparable, they are similar, but they're not the exact same. So, yeah, definitely a little bit different than I was expecting for sure. Honestly, I was expecting the exact same taste as I got from American Spirit Blues, as I get from American Spirit Blues in the United States, but that was not the case at all. And definitely a little bit of a different taste. Definitely a little bit of a different taste. As said, very much a combination in some way, shape, or form of the American Spirit Dark Blues and American Spirit Blues, mainly with a little bit of American Spirit Red sweetness in there as well. So, you know, very, very, very interesting cigarettes as a whole. Very enjoyable. I would definitely buy a pack of these again, and I will most certainly enjoy smoking the rest of this pack right here. Do I think the American Spirit Bold cigarettes are worth picking up if you're an American visiting Canada? Most certainly, yes. I most certainly do think they are worth picking up. I most certainly do think they are a little bit different than American Spirits, and that is the main reason why I think they're worth picking up. If they were the exact same as American Spirit Blues from the United States, I'd honestly probably say they're not worth picking up because they're going to be a little bit more expensive than a lot of states' cigarettes, besides New York, I'd have to say. If you're going through New York into Canada, you might be better off buying these even if they were the exact same. But due to the fact that these are a little bit different than American Spirits from the United States, these are 100% worth picking up, especially if you're a fan of American Spirit as a brand. 100% worth picking up, as said. And yeah, no, as a whole, definitely a worthwhile cigarette to try. Worthwhile cigarette to try if you're an American, and if you're a Canadian, I think these are a worthwhile cigarette to try as well. And if you're a Canadian and you normally smoke these, definitely try American Spirits eventually, because you'll find them to be a little bit more different than not to these cigarettes right here, yet at the same time a little bit similar. But, you know, definitely worth trying. Definitely worth trying in my personal opinion. Glad I tried these today, and if you're visiting Canada, I think these might be worth trying as well. Overall, I think these cigarettes deserve a very solid high 3 out of 4. And honestly, I actually like these cigarettes more than the American Spirit Blues from the United States, and I like these cigarettes about as much as the American Spirit Dark Blues and the American Spirit Reds from the United States, and I definitely like these cigarettes more than the American Spirit Turquoises from the United States, although definitely not as much. I definitely don't like these cigarettes as much as the American Spirit Blacks or American Spirit Grays, but pretty solid cigarettes as a whole. High 3 out of 4 for these cigarettes right here. For context, my rating scale goes from a 1 to 4, with 1 being like, this is terrible, never smoked this. A 2 being like, it's okay, it's not to my personal preference, but some people might enjoy it. A 3 out of 4 is like, this is pretty solid, but it's not like the best thing ever. And a 4 out of 4 is like, yeah, this is the best thing ever. This is like all I ever want to smoke. These are most certainly a high 3 out of 4. It's pretty close to being like the best thing ever, but not quite there. Not quite there in my personal opinion. There's some aspects of the taste that are not exactly my personal preference. I'm just really not the biggest fan of that sort of dry taste. That's the main reason why I'm not really the biggest fan of American Spirit Blues from the United States. I prefer a sweeter, more nutty taste, I definitely have to say. And these supply both a sweet and nutty taste along with that dry taste, which comes across as being much more interesting than not. But just due to the fact that that dry taste is in there, these cannot be a solid 4 out of 4. Very, very, very good though. Very solid smokes. High 3 out of 4 for these cigarettes right here. I would most certainly buy a pack of these again, and I could definitely see these being a daily smoke of mine if I lived within Canada, in all honesty. Overall, the American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada are pretty solid smokes, in my personal opinion. Well, I think that's all I had to say for this video today. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have tried American Spirits from Canada. Do you guys feel the same way that I do? Do you guys think they're a little bit different than American Spirits from the United States? Let me know in the comments down below. And also just make sure to let me know what you guys think of the American Spirit Bold cigarettes from Canada if you guys have just in general tried them before. Do you guys think they're good? Do you guys think they're bad? Let me know in the comments down below. And also make sure to like and subscribe for more content. I have my Instagram, my book, my merch, my P.O. Box, and my second channel all in the description down below. Go check it all out. Thank you so much for watching, y'all. To the next one, stay safe and peace and have a great one. Yes, sir, I'm saying.